What's up? In today's video, we're gonna take a look with you top 5 traps that you can do with the white pieces. So the first trap that we're gonna see with you would be against Scandinavian. I would say that Scandinavian is actually one of the most common face move. Of course, it's after e5 and the e5 and the c5, but still d5 is like a move that you should know some of the tricks that you can do against it. So after d5, we're gonna capture back the pawn, queen takes d5, and you develop the knight to c3 with a tempo because we are attacking the queen. And our trap is actually connected here with the queen d8, but rather than that, black also have some options. It's just queen a5, queen d6, or queen d8 variations. So our trap is connected with the queen d8, black goes back to queen d8, and we developed our bishop to c4. Everything looks normal, just normal development. Black plays knight f6 and knight f3. Bishop goes to g4. And one more time, I would like you to pay your attention to our current position. Like in the normal situation, if you're having this game right now on the board, it just looks fine for both of the sides. But actually it's already like a +3 position on the board. And the thing is that according to Leach's database, over 64,000 people has played in this position the bishop g4 move. And why bishop g4 is a mistake? At first sight, it makes sense that by playing bishop g4, black is trying to pin the queen, but the thing is, the bishop c4 is very well placed. And here we have the move knight e5, which is quite a surprising move for the black. Why surprising? Because the reason is simple. The black went bishop g4 to pin the queen, so not to let the white knight to get from f3 or to move anywhere. But without caring that, white is immediately playing knight e5, and the main point behind is that if black captures back the pawn, simply we are having the mate on the board and the game is finishing just in 7 moves. So that's why here black should try to consider another move rather than getting checkmated. And there's another response that black can try here. So rather than taking the queen, as you can see, taking the queen is not an option at all. Bishop can retreat to h5, but this also doesn't help to stop the white threat. We're gonna sack the queen, black takes back, and still we are having this just a beautiful checkmate on the board with the help of the knight and the bishop. Now let's look at the second trap, and this is also actually one of the common traps, I would just say. And our trap happens in the bishop's opening. So white goes to e4, black goes to e5, white goes to bishop c4, knight 6, knight c3, and bishop c5. Just a symmetrical setup we are having on the board. And immediately in this position, after making some initial 3 moves, white develops his queen as soon as possible. And the main idea behind this move is that we are starting to attack on the king side. And by playing queen g4, you can see our main threat is right now on the g7. So black will play here queen f6. Otherwise, any other moves can immediately give the huge advantage for white. For example, by playing king f8, black is simply losing the king advantage. And by forwarding the pawn to g6, we can simply continue by playing queen f3. And by playing queen g4, we just created the weaknesses on the dark squares for the black. So after queen g4, the very natural move that people will play, it's definitely queen f6, because by just playing one move, black is just having 2 shots. It's just defending at the same time counterattacking on the f2 square. And here your opponent who played queen f6 might think, Alright, my opponent probably gonna play right now knight f3, or like retreating back to queen g3 so he can defend the f2. But instead of that, we're not gonna stop surprising our opponent by just playing knight d5. And simply, here we are just using the rule, let's do it. The best defense is counterattack. So black takes back and enjoys from this free pawn, and the only move white can play is a king d1. And right now let's make a little bit pause on this position, like what happened. Yes, we lost the pawn, yes, we lost the king safety, but now the important part. It's turn for the white to do something. Because for the black, yeah, he won the pawn, he got his queen to our side, but the thing is that what's his next pawn? It's very unclear, because right now he can get into trouble, because now it's a white's turn to attack. So in this current situation, you can see the fork from the c7 is coming, and at the same time g7 pawn is hanging. So in the both ways, kind of, white can win one of the black's rook on h8 or a8. So black should take here, make a quick decision here in order to stop both of them, and king f8 actually will help it to do it. So we're playing king f8, pawn on g7 being defended, and there is no threat of the fork that gives us opportunity to win the pawn. So the thing is, it was only our plan A. Our plan A was to take the g7 pawn or c7, and by doing that to win one of the rooks. If the plan A is not working, let's go for plan B. And the plan B here is that which of the black piece is actually in the white field? It's a queen. Maybe time to say hi to him. Knight h3, immediately developing the knight with the tempo. Queen is under the attack, and the only square that queen can escape here, moving back to queen d4. And after queen d4, exactly, so black is trying to attack our bishop and the d3. And here d3 is a very tricky move. And the reason is that because you may think that we push the pawn to d3 to defend the bishop. It is, but in reality, imagine if this position was again the white's turn. We can just push this pawn to c3 and the powerful queen can get trapped. So that is what's coming next for the black. And it's like the position, you know, like when you're playing in a real game, you may not think that like d3 is being played for the c3. Actually, in reality, it's like that, but you will not really take this d3 move seriously, and rather than that, you will start to focus on other things. But still, by playing d3, if we spend some time, we can realize our queen is very not well placed, and that's why black should play here. Black should do here something in order to save the queen. And there is that d6 move, which attacks the queen. We just go back, and bishop takes our knight, which is also, I will call it very clever idea, because by deflecting, by simply removing our knight, if we just take back with the pawn, queen is again getting the freedom, because it's being supported right now with the bishop. So that's the main point why black is trying to capture back our knight on h3. But the thing is that we are not forced to take the bishop on h3. Why? Because we are also understanding what's a black's plan. Black's plan is just remove the knight and get the queens of freedom. Well, let's just remove it. Rook f1, very clever move, at the same time strong, because by playing rook f1, we are not only just removing the queen f2 move, but at the same time creating another threat on the black's king side. And here black must have to retreat his bishop in order to defend f7. And finally, we are achieving our goal of trapping a queen by pushing the pawn to c3. Time for the third trap. And this trap happens in one of the aggressive gambits in chess and the king's gambit. You're gonna push the pawn to e4, black pushes the pawn e5, and you go with the pawn f4. So queen's gambit, I'll just honestly say it's my of the favorite gambits, because by playing this gambit, you just enjoy from a lot of aggressive chess and a lot of just a cool tactics happens on the board. And at the same time, you can have a bunch of games with a beautiful checkmates on the board that you'll remember it for a long time. So this is one of the, right now we're gonna see with you that you can actually also do against your opponents by playing this wonderful gambit. So e4, e5, f4 on the current board. On the current situation, we have the king's gambit. And after pushing f4, black has multiple moves that he can play. But the main line stands for, and being played by most of the people, is just capturing back the pawn and knight f3, which usually in the king's gambit, white plays by sacrificing this f4 pawn. And by doing that, he has another compensation for it, and that means white gonna have much more quicker and faster development rather than the black. And bishop e7 move, and this is the most common move here in the main line. Black tries to play the g5, but in lower rated chess player, for most of the lower rated chess player, this move seems a little bit dangerous, because if you don't really have a knowledge, it looks like kind of you are making your king side weak. And besides g5, there are many mainline moves, and one of them is a bishop e7 that we're gonna see right now how it can get punished. And this move actually being played a lot in chess, like on the database right now. I'm seeing it's being played by almost 500,000 of people. So there are many, like there are very high chances that you can actually face against your opponents, that your opponent can go with a bishop e7. So bishop e7 here is to play to bishop h4 check, and to kind of create the king safety problem. But we go with the bishop c4 and bishop h4 check. So right, black kind of got what he wanted. That was creating the king safety problem for white. But the thing is, if you take the bishop, black is taking back, and we have the problem with our safety, with our king safety. But here we have a very tricky and very little bit, how to say that, like a surprising move for the black, pushing the pawn to g3, which black takes back. You're gonna castle, g takes h2, and king h1. Well, you can say, where's this white's 3 pawns are gone? It's just we kind of gave as a birthday present to our opponent. But in reality, that by giving these 3 pawns, if you see that, like, we castled, we developed the knight, we developed the bishop, and it's kind of, they are really ready for the battle on the kingside part. And the thing is that at the same time, this h2 pawn is actually really white wants to keep it, because it's a black pawn, but actually it's doing the white's pawn job. It's just simply defending the king and protecting from the threats of like a checks on h file. So here the h2 of the black pawn is kind of doing the job of the defending the white's king. And here black really needs to put the bishop back somewhere in order to develop his knight, because it's right now being protected by the queen. So bishop retreats back on his own. And here all it starts. Keep in mind, if you are a King's Gambit chess player, or you are going to start to play this gambit, f7 square should be your main square that your sacrifices are connected or all your attacking threats are. For example, even in this position, it's connected with the bishop f7 check, which means after king takes back f7, knight e5 check. So we are just welcoming the king to the traveling around the board. Otherwise, by going back, there's a queen h5 move, and checkmate is very, very soon on the board. So king needs to go up to e6, but still, in both cases, it's already late that black cannot do nothing about the checks of the white. So queen g4 check. It's already losing the position for the black, because the best move here king d6, but not taking the knight. Otherwise, if king e5, there's just we are having the mate in 2 moves. And after king d6, just we have a triple fork with our knight. And I think here the best decision for our opponent, just to show the respect and resign. Let's move on. Time for the fourth trap. And this is actually going to be really helpful for the Queen's Gambit chess players. But I should just mention one thing, that this trap is actually being played a lot already, a lot of just in the real games. And some people are aware of this trap, which I refer to black perspective. But still, trap means you have a knowledge. Who knows? Maybe you cannot trap like 10 people, but at least if you trap 1 people, you should be just really happy because you learned this trap and it finally paid off. Let's go on. d4, d5, c4, and Queen's Gambit accepted by taking d takes c4. So this is a situation black is immediately captured our pawn on c4, and the best move here actually to play the pawn to e4, and by we are controlling the center and at the same time attacking this pawn c4. But the thing is, our trap is connected with the e3, and you're gonna realize very soon why e3 with the e3 this trap happens, but not with the e4 move. So e3 and e4 will give us the same results, that we are attacking the both ways the pawn on c4. And here the best option for black would be just do not care about his extra pawn. He should just let it give up. But people try to save it because extra pawn is already kind of means advantage from the mathematical perspective. So b5 gives us support on the c4 pawn, and here we go with the a4, which by doing that, we are trying to break this connection between the 2 pawns. And after a4, a6 cannot be played because just we take the pawn, black cannot take back because c4 at the same time is hanging. And if black tries to play with a c6, which he realized with the a6 he's going to lose a pawn, and with the 6 it's not happening, the pin on the a file, he gonna do it by playing, he gonna play it c6, we take back and he takes back. And now that is important moment, the reason why we played e3 but not e4. And this is queen f3 move. And if our pawn was right now on e4, do you think we had an opportunity to trap this rook like this way? Nope, because it would have just blockaded our queen. But in the current situation, rook is absolutely trapped. So yeah, rook is trapped, but black need to give up the knight in order not to trap the rook. And it would be better to give the 3 points rather than the hold these 5 points. But still, I think it would be really easier. It's already like a really easy position for white to play with just an extra knight and just finishing the game in a very soon, in very few next moves. And finally we go for our last trap that can happen, and this is our trap would be against Sicilian. Sicilian, neither variation. We go e4, black goes to c5, knight f3, d6, and d4. Black takes back, we take back, knight f6, and knight c3. And this is a situation that black may choose 3 directions. So it's a dragon, it's whether classic Sicilian, or lastly the knight variation by playing a6. So we go bishop g5, e6, and f4. So just like a normal development for the white perspective, knight b7 and bishop c4. So in the current situation, white was able to develop all his pieces, the minor pieces, and as well as somehow got control in the center. And here black plays immediately b5, and this I call very natural move, because with the by playing b5 he's attacking the bishop, and at the same time the next move with the tempo he can develop his bishop to b7. But one thing that black can miss here is that retreating the bishop is an option, but chess is always beautiful with the sacrifices. How about trying this option? So bishop takes e6, f takes e6, knight e6. Currently nothing like a special happened on the board. Yeah, we got 2 pawns for the bishop, but nothing special happened yet. So by playing knight e6 we are attacking the queen. Queen e7 of course cannot be played, otherwise there's just a fork on the board. Or even a stronger option here for white would be just playing knight d5. And in this case, black cannot take, we are not winning the rook, but actually it's a bigger fish, the queen. And if queen f7, so yeah, we are still going with the same idea, the winning the rook. And queen b6. Black is trying to save his queen. We go with the knight d5 to center, and it's actually forcing for black to take our knight. Otherwise right now we are getting the support on c7, and it could happen with the tempo, because by centralizing our knight we are attacking the queen at the same time. Knight takes d5, queen takes d5. And after queen takes d5, here as you can see the rook, currently the rook is under attack, and that's the main thing that right now black should just take care of it. And after queen d5 there are many ways that black can actually save it, but bishop b7 is a move probably you're thinking, because by playing bishop b7 black is defending the rook and at the same time the queen. But again, traps usually happens when your opponent makes the weak options. And bishop b7 is a natural move, but unfortunately it's a weak option, because here white responds with the counter-attack. Yes, the queen was under attack, but we have a counter-attack chance, which means the king is the center. And keep in mind, attacking the king is always easy when it's a center. So knight 7 check, queen takes back, and then we go with the queen e6. And there's no space that black can go for, because that squares are being controlled by the queen and the bishop. Bishop blocks, and we're gonna have a mate on the board by taking queen e7. And let's go back to that moment. So queen d5, we had knight 7 check, and it was kind of forcing mate on the board. Well, how about just rook b8? Do you still think that knight 7 still works? It is. So you go, takes, and again the mate on the board. Rook a7, the same. Basically right now in the current situation it feels like black need to give up the rook or just get checkmated. I hope these 5 traps that you learned in this video will very soon happen in your games, and you start using your trap knowledge against your opponent and have more victories because of your just trap knowledge in chess.